Mistress of Ceremonies for this evening. I would like to begin by greeting you. Thank you all for coming tonight. You're in for a treat, I can assure you. This program, tonight's lecture is entitled Islam, Race, and Genetics, and it is sponsored by a variety of people around the university, namely the Office of Student Life, Student Activities and Centers, Residence Life, the Minority Studies Department, the Office of Minority Affairs, the Associate Vice Chancellor for Student Development, and the academic deans. This program was also made possible by a couple of organizations around campus, their help, and that would be the Muslim Student Organization, the Alana Women, and Black Student Unity. Without further ado, I will turn it over to the Chancellor for the welcome. Thank you.
Well, I felt very privileged when Dr. Shaheed asked me if I would introduce our distinguished speaker tonight. And it comes at a time when I, for example, just returned from a higher education meeting in California where the tenor of the meeting was one of great concern about where diversity is in the priorities of American campuses today. If you look at where our Congress is on certain public policies that relate to diversity in our country, from gender to race to age to children to welfare, I think you know that there is a bit of isolationist thinking about in the land, certainly propositions that disconnect us rather than connect us. So I was really pleased to come back to campus this week and be able to come to an evening where we're going to celebrate diversity. I often say to students that I have taught in my cultural differences class, I'm not teaching now as chancellor, but that I used to teach, that we need to remember that there are more people in the world who do not look like us, talk like us, think like us, dance like us, sing like us, eat like us, and that those people are in the majority. And each of the cultures that are represented in that diversity have an incredible richness to offer all of us. And yet here we sit, approaching the 21st century, and rather than all kinds of priorities focusing on how we might come connected to one another, there is this great kind of separationist movement in the land, I think, born of fear. I think Proposition 187 in California was a good example of how people have voted in those ways. So tonight, it is just a real privilege to have a person who comes from, as leader of a group of 60 million or more people who share a particular faith, who are united by a common belief system. It may not be ours, but it is a valid belief system, and that is here to help us learn. And I really and truly hope that as we hear our distinguished speaker tonight, that you will truly listen to understand, because so often when we hear a speaker, we tend to sit there because we're trained as students and academics to be the critiquer. And when you're in a critiquing mode, you're not in a real hearing mode. And when you're not in a hearing mode, you're not in a listening mode. And when you're not in a listening mode, you're not in a listening to understand mode. So I would really encourage you to listen very carefully, to open your minds, yes, but also open your hearts to the message that will be conveyed. And I think if we do that, we're going to learn a lot. So I'm very pleased to see the big crowd here, see our good attendance by our students. It shows real conscientiousness on their part, and welcome to others of you as well in the audience.
Next on our program, we will have a poem by a very talented young man, Richard D. Benson II. He's a student here at UWL, and he's very involved with the Black Student Unity Organization and also the Black Man's Think Tank. Richard.
The title of my composition, I call it The Wealth of One. From the first second of my conception to the last of my recollection, I know of only two things that had given me strength. The first is of one being that is recognized by a few names, Yahweh, Allah, Jehovah, and has many powers of love and creation not understood by any science. My God has many believers and is there through the most troublesome times when the physical is incapable. I know my grandmother used to tell me all the time that by me as a person always depending on other people and individuals on earth for me and fulfillment of my dreams, and what I do in life isn't good, and if I keep doing it, I'm not really going to be successful and do what I want to do. So by this I mean for man alone is nothing. Without God, your everyday wouldn't be ever possible if not for his presence over you. The second of the two started off, I'll probably say, off the western coast of Africa, and now finds its haven back home in Markham, Illinois. That's right outside Chicago for me. And it spread through the nation in California, Kansas, Mississippi, Louisiana, and other places, which I really don't have too much accountability, and that is black family, and what it has meant to my manhood and being. For now, in 1995, this value was losing its importance, and with it, the respect for elders and of self. In a poetic sense, the basis of my say is this, and I call it the wealth of one. In financial means, I feel that we all have dreams, but the picturesque of life is infinitely larger, for the wealth of self should be measured on the purest of soul, for man cannot live on bread alone. In the most troublesome times when material things aren't near and you feel you must face your greatest fear, put trust in God and believe in self, and you will have found your greatest wealth. Thank you.
That was a very nice composition, I would say. Give him another round of applause. We'll have some history on Black History Month given by Alvin Coleman. Alvin is a very involved person with the organizations on campus, Black Student Unity and BMTT. He is now the treasurer of Black Student Unity. And BMTT? And BMTT, I'm sorry. Alvin.
Dr. Carter G. Woodson was born in New Canton in Buckingham County, Virginia in 1875. He was given the name the father of Negro history by those who recognized his achievements in establishing the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History in 1915. To encourage scholars to engage in the intensive study of the Black past. He was the first African American of slave parentage to earn a PhD in history from Harvard University in 1912. Dr. Woodson's most famous book, The Miseducation of the Negro, written in 1933, is still in print today. To focus attention on Black contributions to civilization in 1926, Woodson founded Black History Week, and 50 years later in 1976, the month of February was declared Black History Month. The purpose of Black History Month is for African Americans to enrich their knowledge of African American culture and customs. For this, I personally thank Dr. Carter G. Woodson. Another history maker I salute is James Weldon Johnson. Johnson was born in 1871 in Jacksonville, Florida. In 1895, he founded the newspaper, The Daily American, and in 1898, he was admitted to the Florida Bar. Then in 1909, Johnson and his brother collaborated on Lift Every Voice and Sing, an anthem to commemorate Lincoln's birthday. This anthem later went on to be adopted as a Black national anthem in 1924. Now I would like to ask Cheryl Roberson and Sonia Stackhouse to come to the stage as they will be singing the national anthem tonight.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as a rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. And we're facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. That was excellent. I wish I could have done the same thing, but give him another round of applause, and Alvin too. And now we will have Ronald Shahid, who is the advisor of the Muslim Student Organization. Please come and introduce our speaker for this evening.
Good evening. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. The so-called Black Power movement nourished the growth of my consciousness as I attended college in the 1960s and early 70s. My zeal to do something to improve the lot for African Americans led me to join the Nation of Islam under the leadership of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, father of our speaker tonight, Imam W. Dean Muhammad. I almost totally immersed myself and my young family under the influence of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I believed at that time, as we all did, that the white man's world was near the end and that it was only a matter of time until there would be only black people on the earth, as we believed it was in the beginning of time. You can understand then why in those days we were called by the media and others black Muslims. In most of our areas of concern, it concerned black people only. As I previously said, I joined the Nation of Islam because I wanted to see the overall situation improve for African American people in general. I wanted to see us established as people of dignity and respect. I eventually came to understand that classical Islam, as it was established by the revealed word that was given to Prophet Muhammad 14 centuries ago, speaks to the dignity of all human beings, while at the same time acknowledging distinctions in the human family. This understanding transformed my conscience and allowed me to continue to give regard to the upliftment of my race, but it demands that I first regard the Creator who created all races and everything. But I must add that this understanding, this awareness in me, did not come until Imam W. Dean Muhammad, our speaker tonight, succeeded his father and pointed us to the true image of Islam. Now, the history of Islam in America presents certain personalities to us. Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Elijah Muhammad, etc. As I said, Imam W.D. Muhammad is Elijah Muhammad's son. It is also commonly known that he was an associate of Malcolm X, or Malcolm X Shabazz. What perhaps is not commonly known is the fact that Imam W.D. Muhammad strongly influenced Malcolm X to change his views. In 1975, Imam Muhammad accepted to lead a whole group of people somewhat like Malcolm X in their thinking, and since that time has guided them to embrace Islam in its classical perspective. These same people have elementary schools and secondary schools in every major city in the United States and in some cities in Canada and the Caribbean. We have a representative here tonight, Imam Pleman El Amin, who is sitting right here, who administers over perhaps the best school in our association in Atlanta, Georgia. We have more successful businesses and business people than at any time in our history since the 1930s. I've said all of this to say that Imam W.D. Muhammad is the only legitimate leader of his father's Nation of Islam today, and he has led us to where we are today, a thriving society of Muslim Americans. And he has accomplished this while remaining true to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's primary aim and purpose, and that was to bring dignity and establishment to the African American people here in America. In a speech to his associates on November 21st, 1992, Imam Muhammad is reported as having said, quote, "The real purpose of the Nation of Islam was to give us enough faith in our original creation to make us have faith in our own ability to think for ourselves, to think independently. I can be a factor for that change because I refuse to give up the habit and practice of thinking for myself," unquote. I want to close with a quote from Tony Brown, journalist and host of Tony Brown's Journal on public TV, who said of Imam W.D. Muhammad, quote, "I have followed Imam W.D. Muhammad's work for nearly 20 years, and I am a long admirer of his keen mind and dedication, but most of all to his spiritual growth. When he had an opportunity to erect and dedicate a giant ego for himself, he refused. Instead of training the spotlight on the illusion of fame, he decided to become an example of his true self and let God's light shine from within. The African American community, more than ever, needs a moral compass. We have surrendered to the ego of a lost leadership. Imam W.D. Muhammad has been one of the few who has continually provided moral leadership that possesseth a creative vision. He is a beacon of light. Follow him." Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, I give you Imam W.D. Muhammad.
Thank you. Praise be to God, the one Lord, creator of us all. We acknowledge him. We worship him. We don't associate false gods with him. And we salute with the traditional salute of Muslims, the last prophet of Islam. We believe to be a mercy to the world, as God says in his holy book, a mercy to all the worlds. Mohammed, the prophet of Arabia, who was with us on this earth about 1415 years or so ago. We wish peace and blessings on all of you, on all of us. Ameen. We thank God for blessing us to be here at this time on earth in the Muslim society of the world. We thank God for having people like you on this campus, the University of LaCrosse, to invite us here so you can get a close-up look at us. We thank God for people like you who are not afraid to look at are into the lives of people that are not like yourselves, or who believe in an idea that you don't personally subscribe to. We would like to feel tonight that we are doing a service to ourselves, to Muslims, and a service to you, a service to non-Muslims. Islam is a religion of peace. Islam is a religion of over 1 billion human beings on this earth, or better than 1/5 of the earth population today are Muslims. Islam has no place for racism. Islam has been misrepresented by guilty persons and also innocent persons. And I do believe that the Nation of Islam, leaders, and followers, for most of the history of the Nation of Islam, were innocent, worldly naive, and open to be told any story, whether of the nature of fiction or of the nature of myth, and they would accept it as fact or as reality. And I do believe that those who designed the Nation of Islam for the African American community or the black community, I believe that they themselves thought they were innocent. That is, I believe that their intention was good. They were creating something that they thought they could control and laboring it Islam in hopes that when circumstances changed in America, to give African Americans a sense of belonging here with other Americans, and education would be available, that is equal education, available to African Americans as it was to whites, that the new circumstances would arouse our curiosity and make us uncomfortable in our unreal beliefs, and would eventually be the undoing of the plan or the idea that the architect of the Nation of Islam left us with. So I'm not saying that, as a Muslim, I'm not saying that they were completely innocent, but I'm saying that they thought they were innocent. They thought their intentions were good. Now, so much for that. The procedure I would like to follow in addressing you for the second time on this campus, and thank you very much for having me back. I was here about 2 years ago and left with a wonderful feeling, and it wasn't completely dead, and I knew that when the plane was approaching this city, because something was rekindled in me that you had started or brought about by your goodness, by your peacefulness, by your sincerity. The procedure will begin with a look at Muslims and our involvement on the world scene. When Islam and Muslim life find expression, we sometimes get the wrong image of Islam. Islam has been misrepresented by those people who claim Islam. Now, it is my understanding, after a long time wondering why the contradictions exist, it is my understanding now that the Muslims of the world themselves had become distant from their own knowledge. The leaders of Islam today, as a majority, the scholars, the ulama, as you say in the Arabic language, the ulama, they are saying in private settings and also before others that Muslims have been living in the dark themselves as to what is true Islam and the obligations that they should accept, Muslims should accept, that is, to attend the needs of the Muslim community and to do charity outside of the Muslim community. When we see such behavior as that was reported in the news and alarmed us all, the bombing of the Trade Center, when we hear of hijacking and the innocent being used to draw attention to the cause of the desperate from the Arab world or from Palestinians or from any Muslim country or place, when we hear of bombings that destroy and kill the lives of women, children, charged to persons who identify as Muslims, when we hear of persons wiring themselves up with explosives and making themselves a sacrifice just to injure, maim, kill, to get attention to their desperation, to their cause, we are seeing something that is as strange to Islam as it is to the best Christianity. And we know we have our quality Christianity and our not so quality Christianity. And we have our quality Islam and our not so quality Islam. And we have our quality Judaism and our not so quality Judaism. The point here is to let the Muslims be on record for deploring such acts of terrorists, and let us be on record for sympathizing with the victims and for trying to, in our own way, with our own means, trying to influence both the desperate ones who are trying to get attention to themselves and their cause, attention to their hurt and their cause, to influence them, to influence their hearts, to touch their hearts, to maybe signal a new kind of thinking in them, and also to send a message to the Jews, to the Jewish community, to the Israelis, to let them know that that is not Islam, which they do know. The authorities in Israel know that. They know Islam. But to let them know also that there are Muslims that have the moral courage, the obedience to God, to stand up and condemn those in their ranks who behave like that. Our look at Islam and Muslim life in America addresses a number of good features and also preachings and conduct that is responsible for the discredit on Islam and Muslim life that we are experiencing and have been experiencing. The Nation of Islam in America, I'd like to kind of shift gears now and go from the international scene to the national scene, America. The Nation of Islam in America. I'm sure the author of that idea, named Farad, spelled F-A-R-D in the dictionaries and dictionary Encyclopedia Britannica, what is pronounced F-A-R-A-D, Farad, W-D Farad, W-F Farad, Farad Mohammed. He had different names. He gave his name as many names. He gave himself many names. I'm sure that he knew that what he put together was not Islam. He was from, we were told, Arabia. And then there was some, looked like doubt. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad also told us that he believed he was a Turk from the Turkish people. And after studying his handwriting and what I learned of him from persons who knew him personally close up and saw him daily, I'm convinced that he was an Indian from Asia, from the Far East, from that part of India that is now Pakistan. That's what I'm convinced of. And I'm convinced, I repeat, that he knew what he put together was not Islam. What he put together as a religion is farther from Islam than any religion I know of on this earth. And that's a fact. It can easily be proven. Now, why would he mix something so strange to Islam and label it Islam? Because, as I've already said, he wanted to create something temporary to hold the people, his disciples, and the people that followed that idea until circumstances got better in this country to favor us, feeling that we included here. And he put Islam on it so that Islam would be in our hearts, Muslims would be in our hearts, despite the great difference between what we believe and what Muslims believe on this earth. We identified with Muslims and we called all Muslims our brother. We thought we all belonged to one world global brotherhood. I give you the language of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He said, when you join this nation, you are become automatically a member in the Muslim nations of the world. You have automatic citizenship in any Muslim nation. That's what he told us. Now, this country, at that time when I was a young man listening to my father, teenager, young man, this country had two laws. One favoring white supremacy, and the other one imposed upon blacks to make sure that we would never become equal, not to mention superior. So you can understand victims of that world of yesterday, and I do believe it's a world of the past, giving an ear to a man that said to them, "You are not inferior, you're superior." The one who labeled you inferior is inferior. You're not the sons of the black darkness or the demon. The one who labeled you that, they are the sons of the demon. So he just reversed everything. And in our ears, it was sweet. In our ears, it was medicine to heal our paining, and crushed ego. It was wrong. Certainly it was wrong. But understand, he was not talking to people like who had education, like Carter G. Woodson. He was talking to an audience. The average level of education for them was about the 4th or 5th grade, elementary school. He didn't attract even junior college students from the African American community or from the black community until he changed his emphasis from, I don't want to use the wrong term, from religious science, for want of a better expression, from religious science to business sense and business development. When he changed his emphasis, then he began to attract persons who had a higher level of education. I recall the first college graduates or degreed persons to become members of the Nation of Islam. One, Dr. Lani Shabazz, who had his doctorate degree in mathematics. Another one, Dr. Salam, who was a practicing dentist. And in time, he attracted even more in the 70s, late 60s and in the 70s. Malcolm X himself never got any credits from college. He did most of his studying during the 14 years that he spent in prison. He had plenty of time on his hands, so he told me, he said, "Wallace, I tried to go through the whole dictionary and learn the vocabulary of the dictionary." That's what he told me. And he told me that he studied many things. So he actually educated himself while he was in prison. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad came from Sandersville, Georgia, with only 3 years elementary schooling, elementary education. He taught himself to write a nice hand with a nice hand. He taught himself to read by just doing it and listening to others and getting his relatives who could read to help him. And I recall that when I was a man of 35, my father's hand was still poor, but much better than it was when I was a teenager. I thank God, before he passed, his hand looked like he attended junior college or college. He had a nice hand. But that's from striving, struggling, and painting to make it correct, to make it right. So we are talking about a following that was worldly naive, a following that you could have told the moon was a cheese, and if you said it with a straight face and had education, they would say, yes, it's cheese. They would have believed it. Now, I use a quote from a publication which said, quote, "Muslims in America are sending out, quote, mixed messages," referring to Farrakhan and other off-brand Islamic groups. I'm not saying that to criticize him. I'm just saying that because that's the fact. I couldn't put it any other way and be truthful, off-brand. Yes. So we are sending out mixed messages. The burden is on us not to send out mixed messages. If we are sending out mixed messages to the Christian or to the American public, then we are responsible for how they are looking at us or seeing us. But what I'm saying now is that not only is the past, the ugly past, when Americans and the West were seeing Islam as an enemy of Christ, peace be upon Christ Jesus, the prophet, an enemy of democracy of the West, having the crusader mentality in them. A lot of ugly things came to the public through literature, through newspaper cartoons, comics, through Hollywood movies, etc., to misrepresent, misimage, or wrongly image, Islam and Muslim life. I'm not talking about that time. I think that time is mostly behind us too. Thank God. I think now the American people are better informed, less prejudiced, more open-minded, more inclined to embrace all cultures and respect all religions. Thank God for this time. Best time I believe we've had on this earth since this earth was created. I mean for Christians and people of different religions. I believe this is the best time since the earth was created. I'm now addressing our part in the distortion of Islam, in the distortion of the true image of Muslim and Muslim life. When we continue to say we are Muslims and identify strongly as Muslims and preach hatred, racial hatred, stand upon an idea that supports black dominance, and I know what the Nation of Islam believes in. My father was responsible for his life and his future for about 50 years. So I know what it's all about. And I know that the believers or followers of the Nation of Islam, they are told from the very first time they say they accept, they are told that the white man is the devil, wicked by nature, created by experiment. A so-called black scientist named Yaqub experimented with the genes of the black man and discovered that he could graft from the black man a white man by mating lighter ones with lighter ones. Every time light one was born, he would mate the light one to another light one and continue to do that until he, in the language of the Nation of Islam, grafted the gene, the black gene, completely out of the black man and formed or created a white race, a white man or a white race. This is what you would call that, myth, fiction, what? I think it's Farad's metaphysics. That's what I think it is. Yes, he introduced his own metaphysics. And we're not to get the meanings from the surface language. The meanings come only when we know how to unlock his metaphysics. I'm not talking about real white folks, skinned folks. I'm not talking about physical black people. It's talking about abstracts. Now, knowing exactly what the Nation of Islam represents, what it stands for, what it teaches, what it says its aim is, anyone who is not worldly naive and has an education, like Minister Farrakhan, is consciously doing a great evil. Therefore, I don't have the same respect and I would say sympathy and even tolerance with Farrakhan that I had with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his followers. I don't have the same. Simply because the world is greatly different today, and also the level of education for even the average in the black community is much higher today than it was in 1930, 1940, 1950, and even 1960. The average person is educated by irresponsible television. We can't claim ignorance like we could claim back then. But we are responsible ourselves in great part for the bad image of Islam and Muslims in the West and in the world. Also, America's media, the television, radio, newspapers, definitely has had and still has a role in the maligning of Islam and Muslim life or Muslim identity. We know that the media too has changed in recent times to try to be more even-handed, to try to report the truth regarding Islam and Muslim life. We appreciate that, but still there's too much prejudice against Islam, propaganda against Islam, false reporting by the media to excite the American people and alarm the American people to think that Muslims are aliens among them, not real human like you are, and that Muslims are a threat to Western civilization. There's so much evidence I could give you to show you that Muslims are not only accepting to coexist with Christians and Jews and others, Buddhists and others. We're not only accepting to coexist with Western democracy, but we are now searching, scholars, religious leaders, students in Islam are doing research to see just how much opportunity exists for Muslims and Christians and other religions and for Islamic justice or Islamic idea of democracy to live together with you and work with you on the same problems that we have in common, on the problems that we have in common. This is what is going on. If I would read to you some of the language, you would think it's your own if I didn't say it was from a Muslim. Here is a Muslim publication here, a little Muslim pamphlet that's put out, and you can see the torch and the Statue of Liberty on it. And this organization, or this institution, is founded by very highly educated Muslims, not African Americans. I think most of them are Asians, from Asia. It is called the Minaret of Freedom, and they have other publications by the same name, Minaret of Freedom. And in the background, there is the Prophet's Mosque at Medina, Muhammad's Mosque, right on the site where he lived. His home was there. So they have put the torch of liberty and the Prophet's minaret of the mosque in the same focus. And I read what it says under that picture: those who of their own free will and without compulsion act according to the Quran, obviously Quran in the West, and the Sunnah, that is to the tradition of the Prophet, wear the turban of freedom. That's what they got on here. That's what's on this pamphlet. This is just one organization that Muslim think tanks, I know of at least 2 of them, and organizations devoted to education and social justice, very much like this organization, that are believing and also saying to the American people, to the public, and to the Muslim community of the world that Muslims have to be taught more about Western society, especially about the idea of free enterprise and democracy. And also they have to be taught more about Islam, Islamic social justice, and business ethics in Islam. And when they're taught, they will see a closeness, a compatibility, a common ground for Muslims and Christians to work together, cooperate with each other for a better life and a better future for all people. This is what Muslims are saying on the high levels. Men and women of great knowledge, quality minds. That's what they are saying. Quality intellects. That's what they are saying. How can they believe these things? How can Muslims believe these things if Islam is what the public has been taught Islam is? I know you have heard that Islam wants a dominance on the earth and will not be satisfied until Christianity is removed, taken away, pushed off the planet. Yes, we do have small-minded, unfortunate, poor souls among us making that kind of talk. And they have been doing it for centuries. We know that. But they are in a small minority, especially among the learned. They represent a small minority. You have also in the Christian society, Christians that say such terrible things. I'm sure it makes you not want to even say you're a Christian when they're speaking and others are listening to them. We all have these very extremes. People claiming the name and living on the far borders or the farthest borders of the idea, like Pluto, too far away from the sun. You know, we all have this. So let us understand this and not be so quick to judge and stand upon false knowledge, false reporting, and take a position against each other. I had the innocence to search the Bible for myself. My father told me it was a poison book. It's exactly what he said. He was told that by the foreigner that taught him. So I came up as a child believing that the Bible was a poison book. And I know that any book can poison you if your mind, if you don't approach it correctly. Yeah, that's what I was told. The Bible is a poison book. But when I had the courage and the curiosity that my father, again, is responsible for, because it was my father that said, study everything, question everything, That's what he got from his teacher. Study everything, question everything. So I picked up the Bible and started in Genesis. I didn't just say, oh, well, I'm going to see what's in the gospel. No, I wanted to start from the beginning. I picked up the Bible and I started in Genesis. And I read the Bible through. I wasn't satisfied. I don't care how it confused me. I didn't care how much it made me uncomfortable. I was determined that I would read it straight through, and I did. I read it straight through once. I read it straight through again. The second time I read it straight through, I took notes. So I think I had as much writing almost on the pages as there were in the print. Yeah. Yeah, and the result was I became a person believing in the purity of the Bible. The purity of the Bible. I'm convinced that there is a lifeline of purity running from Genesis to Revelation. And I respect it. And that makes it possible for me now to come up to Christians and embrace them and work with you. When I was given this kind of experience or sharing my experience with an audience once, after I finished, one of the Christians said, Were you hinting that you're a Christian, really? and you know what I said to her? I said, yes. The Christian that I see that the Bible wants to produce, I am that. I am that. Doesn't mean that I believe what you believe on the letter or in the letter of the Bible, but in the spirit of the Bible, yes. I believe in the spirit, or identify with the spirit of the Bible. And I'm talking about that pure lifeline that I see running from Genesis to Revelation. And I believe in your virtues, and we share essentially the same fundamental beliefs. Not practice, but the same fundamental beliefs. Our beliefs are, and I'll give them to you in the order that they're given in Islam, to believe in God, His angels, the books, the prophet and the books that came with them, or the messengers of God and the books that came with them, to believe in the ordinance of God, the law that regulates the benefits, the good benefits or the bad consequences of our actions, etc., and belief in the judgment, belief in the life after death. These are our beliefs. Belief in the life after death. So, if I wasn't given these myself, if a Christian was given these, you would say, amen, because they are your beliefs too. And those are our beliefs. We have practices that give expression to our life in society. That distinguishes us from other religious groups, from other religious communities. We are to declare the oneness of God, not only with our tongue, but also with our actions. And we are to pray 5 times daily. And our prayer, perhaps, is the devotion that makes us most visible in the eyes of the world. And we are to give charity, not only for our families, although that's the first obligation to the family, but to our community, and also to people that are not of our faith. If our neighbor is a non-Muslim and we rest comfortably at night while our neighbor is hungry, the Prophet says we are not one of the Muslims. We are not one of his followers. It was the life of Muslims that went to Indonesia that impressed Indonesians and caused them to be converted to Islam. It was the life of those people. Neighbor living next door, caring about his neighbor, that made the Indonesians curious to know what supports your life. What dictates this behavior in you? The business ethics of the businessmen, fortunately, the businessmen that went to Indonesia, they were better than most Muslim businessmen. Impressed the Indonesians so much that they began to inquire and convert to Islam, and now Indonesia has the biggest Muslim population on this earth. There's more Indonesians than there are Arabs and many other racial groups in Islam, or ethnic groups in Islam. We think that this democracy, belief in freedom, free enterprise, offers Muslims and everybody that come here to establish their life here, or that are here and want to establish their lives, an opportunity to do so. We believe that we can have a good life in America. We believe that we can have growth for Islamic life and Muslim communities in America, and we are realizing that even now, because times have changed in America. And we believe that the future promises even more justice, more opportunity, less prejudice, less racial prejudice and religious prejudice, bigotry, and etc. And that we'll have even a better life here in America. We are planning our life, but we're also planning our defenses. Our defenses are not just for us, but our defenses are for the American society. We're planning how to defend this life that we call American life. We are soldiers, enlisted, without any invitation from you. We have enlisted ourselves in the army of virtues and human kindness and faith in God to protect this life we call American life. We value it, we cherish it. We don't want to see freedom lost, and we don't want to see Christian values lost. You are the majority in this country. Our prophet told us to defend the holy places of other people, and he mandated that Jews and others would have the right to practice their religion under Islamic government, just as they did before Islamic government was established in Medina. When we know these facts of Islam, then we have to be the same in this day and time. No less is expected of us. We invite you to know Islam. And I'm using a quote from an immigrant, or those who have become naturalized citizens. One of their publications had a caption on it: "We invite you to know Islam," end quote. I have added, "for yourself." And I think that's what they meant. We invite you to know Islam for yourself. Islam and the classification of the communities of man is the way that I think I can express Islam's concept of race and racial pride, or race, the dignity of the races. Actually, in Islam, there's no such thing as race. We don't have any word that's exactly what that word holds, the meaning it holds. No race. We believe that we are children of our ancestor, and we are families of our ancestor. We are tribes of our ancestor, of our common ancestor. This is what we believe. And those tribes have formed nations, so we are nations of our common ancestor. But we are not races. We don't believe that. We don't have that kind of meaning. We believe that our ancestor is best understood, common ancestor, is best understood as our common humanity. That God created our common humanity. What God, God have to tell us, I made your physical body like this. I don't need to know that. I know something made this physical body. Tell me something that I'm curious about. What about this kingdom within me? Who designed it? It's wonderful. I'd like to know more about it. This physical body can cohabitate with animals. Some of us have done that thing. Yeah. So I want to know something about this internal body that wants more and more excellence, that is supported by an aim in nature to be and express the best that is in me, the best capabilities, the best potential. That's what I want to know more about. I want to know more about my humanity. And that's what I believe that ancestor is a type of. The ancestor is a type of our common humanity that God created, that God wants in us. And if we build or generate our life upon that common ground or common soil of our humanity, we will have all legitimate children of our ancestors. Our culture will be a legitimate culture. Our race consciousness will be a legitimate race consciousness. Our ethnicity will be a legitimate ethnicity. But if we don't do that, we come here looking strange to our original humanity. And somewhere behind us, someone committed adultery. Thank you very much. I hope you understood what I've said, and we open for questions. May God guide us and have mercy on us and forgive us our sins and bless us and increase us in virtues and in knowledge and in industry. Amen.
How about one more round of applause? With everybody's questions, if they would like to join in the question and answer session, could you please pass your questions on the cards to the left, and someone will come down the aisle to collect those from this side, and those to collect from that side either. So if we could all pass them that way, and we can facilitate the question and answer like that.
All right, the first question that we have to be asked from the audience is, what is wrong with Farrakhan being pro-black? I feel empowered when I hear him. If whites still stereotype us, how has racism changed? Black pride is important. Pro-black does not mean anti-white. America is still racist. Ask Rodney King and Emmett Till and every other beating/kill black. I guess the question here is directed at the entities of Farrakhan being pro-black and how he has facilitated some kind of quote-unquote controversy with the media. If you might want to address that. Yes. Now, thank you for giving me the opportunity to tell you I'm proud that I'm black. What I've said is support for individual sense of esteem and for group sense of esteem. My religion says, the Word of God, Arabic, I'll give it, no need for Arabic here. We have indeed made noble all the descendants of Adam. That's what my book says. So that means the descendants of Adam on the continent of Africa has inborn, innate, created honor and nobility, just as those on any other continent, people on any other continent. Also says, it is God who made your picture. Surah, in common language, it means picture. It is God who made your picture, how you look. When you look in the mirror, that's your picture. It is God who made your picture and made it beautiful and excellent. That's what God says, talking to every one of us, every descendant of Adam. This innate nobility is expressed in another way. The Prophet Mohammed said that God inscribed honor and excellence in everything that he created. So Muslims believe, as the Christians are invited to believe, that God created everything and he looked at and recognized his own work and he held it all to be good until something went wrong in the mind of man. Huh? Yes, well, that's the way we believe. So, brother, my belief in my own personal worth and belief in my ethnic worth or my racial worth is comfortable for me, is supported by the Word of God and the Quran and the teachings of my leader, our Prophet Muhammad, prayers and peace be on him. So I'm not suspended in space looking for myths or looking to create myths to support me, to make me feel good about myself. I believe in God, and I have what God said of myself. And God said that I am attractive, my features are excellent, and I have inborn, created nobility. Now, to better understand this nobility, I'm on a campus, you should understand everything I'm saying. But sometimes, you know, we have what they call pollution, and it messes up the hearing, interferes with the hearing. So I'm going to state it in another way. Or I'm going to give some help to it by addressing something else. You know, in England they have not the Senate and the Congress. They have the nobles and the commons. Well, God is saying that all people he created are nobles. He made no commons. Now, I'm proud I'm black. And you should be proud. Whatever color you are, you should be proud. Because God says he made our features, our descriptions. He made our humanity. He made it excellent. It's something in me, I don't know what it is, other than this African blood that's in my vein, that make me want to go in the backwoods and get me a pretty Bantu woman or something. I don't know what it is. But I have a hard time staying with my wife until I want to go to Africa. I think I lost a wife over there.
Are we ready for the next question?
Yeah.
Okay. The next question would be, one of the audience participants would like to know, what is your view on the Shabazz case?
My view on Shabazz case. Well, these are not easy questions. I remember Dr. Betty Shabazz, her and my wife, her husband and I, we were friends, we associated with each other. I remember the young child that she had at that time, Attila, the oldest daughter, oldest child. But Kobila, she was the infant. So I never got to know her. I just saw her a couple of times after she was a young lady. But I do know the family. And I also know the horrifying experience she had as a baby in her mother's arms, looking at the assassins with shotguns and pistols, riddling her father through with bullets. That can do very, very serious damage to the psychology and the psyche of any person. So I'm not ruling out the possibility that she's guilty of the charge, but my position is that she's innocent.
Next question would be, what is your position on biracial marriages?
Biracial marriages? Well, I agree with the article that appeared in the LaCrosse Tribune. It says that we have one and the same biological system. Biology for all races is the same. There's no difference in the biology of any group. Biology differs very slightly from person to person, but there's no evidence to support differences of biology or in biology for different races, for the races of people. And my religion supports that. What was appeared in that article, I think that was today's Tribune, today's LaCrosse Tribune. My religion supports that. So there's nothing wrong with white body and black body marrying. But now think about it. For human beings, enlightened human beings, evolved human beings, our marriage is not a marriage of biology to biology, but a marriage of heart to heart and mind to mind. And I find that groups have better chance for a marriage and the future of that marriage when they marry from their own group. But my religion does not forbid that any of us marry outside of our group. But we prefer to find mates in our own group. Now, if we had a mixed group, if we were mixed up like some blacks are in South America, they so mixed up, I had to ask them, are you really black? then it doesn't make any difference. It is the closeness that you have, the closeness. You know, some families, they don't want stepbrother and sister to marry. It's because of that closeness they've had. They have become brothers and sisters. And it's not the biology. It's something more important than the biology. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Yes. I wouldn't die if my daughter told me she was in love with a white man and going to marry him. I wouldn't die. But I have to sit down for a while. And it has nothing to do with racism. It has nothing to do with dislike for another people. It has nothing to do with that at all.
Go ahead, Chief. Moving right along. Next question would be, what direction will Islam take in America today?
I think I've clearly indicated that, haven't I? Well, let me go a little bit further with it. We plan to grow up through the system. We plan to take every opportunity to benefit from the system of democracy, the system of free enterprise. We hope that 5 years from now, we'll be called a capitalist community. And I don't mean capitalist in the wrong sense. People having resources, capital, and not begging anybody, but working to become as self-supporting and as self-sustaining as any other group in America on the planet. That's our aim for the future.
Next question. Can you state something about the attitude towards women and the women's position in the Muslim world? The audience participant who has asked this question has perceived the Muslim world as being a man-dominated world.
Yes. Well, it takes a long time. That's a whole another lecture. That's a complete lecture in itself. But I'll try to answer it in about 2 minutes. In Islam, there's the equality of the sexes and also the inequality of the sexes. The inequality does not take from the honor or the dignity of females. It just recognizes the physiological nature of the two and the roles that have been cut out for the two by the planner, God himself. And we believe that though a woman has opportunity to seek a career in the world, a public career, she should fill the role of mother and wife to be more honorable than any role she can have in the public establishment. Muslims elect women. I'm sure you know of the President of Pakistan, Benazir Bhutto. She has been elected now twice. She's the President of Pakistan. And there are at least 2 or 3 other nations, Muslim nations, that are headed by women. If we don't accept to give our women visibility in the public and dignity in the public and authority in the public, how did those Muslim women get to where they are? So that's ignorance. That's part of the ignorance that's on Muslims and on the world. When we study the life of our prophet, we find that he did great work to get men to come away from the ignorance of that ignorant age and give honor and respect to women and accept that women have a voice in the public. Women in the early days of the Muslim society are recorded to have challenged their leaders, the emirs, the sultan, the ruler, the president of their time, and bring him to account for his deviation or for his wrong position right before the public. Also, we know that we have inherited the knowledge of Islam not only from men, but also from women. The scholars will quote the wife of the Prophet, Aisha, may God be pleased with her, just like they quote Abu Bakr, or Uthman, or some of the more recent scholars in Islam. In fact, a great portion of Islamic knowledge that we stand on, authored or reported at least, came to us from a woman, Aisha, and there were other women. Also, you might say, well, but a woman can't be an imam, can she? No. Why should she be an imam when she can be more? She can be a scholar. She can teach imams. She can become the leading thinker in the Muslim community and actually decide how the imams will write their thesis or write their khutbahs. So those are symbolic roles that respect the physiology and the role, public role, that has been established for the man. There's much I can say to you from that. We have wonderful leaders of the Islamic idea, the Islamic religion and its idea. One of them is a man from Sudan, in fact, the one responsible for the new ideological movement that has brought Sudan to now be a federation of states, of autonomous states. His name is Turabi, Hassan Turabi. This intellectual and great thinker in Islam, he makes it a campaign to undo the ignorance about the worth and dignity and equality of women. He goes all over the world. He's a world leader. He has disciples everywhere in the Islamic world. And he's just one who has that kind of prominence in Islamic society. But there are many who don't have that kind of prominence or recognition, like myself and others, that are doing it too, that are doing the same job. We are fortunate, the Nation of Islam following, to not to be burdened with the cultural ignorance of many Muslim societies on this earth. Honorable Elijah Muhammad, our late leader, he put women in very important positions. Women were among his national staff, and I know of one woman, she recently passed, may God forgive her sins and grant her paradise, Falor Najib. Small, brilliant woman, tough woman, great mind. She could actually get Farrakhan in trouble. If Malcolm was around, she could get him in trouble. She had just that much influence and power. Honorable Elijah Muhammad put a woman over the school, to head the school. So I followed him. When I became leader, I put a woman over the newspaper. And a woman's over the newspaper now. Not the same woman, but the editor of our paper is a woman. Her name is Aisha Mustafa. We believe in respecting women and valuing and cherishing their female qualities. And we also believe that a leader, if he's going to be a good leader, he should recognize that God has also put female qualities in men, in males. And that if he divorced himself completely from mother qualities, he can't be a complete leader. he has to let the mother in him, the female in him, express itself too in order to be a great leader.
Last question. Do you feel that one day God will bring all of the races together?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. He put us together when he created Adam. And we're going to have to come back together again. I do believe that.
This statement it reads like this. I do not have a question. Instead, I want to thank you for a genuine and positive message that I believe we should all adhere to and practice in our everyday lives, no matter what religion we believe in and follow. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I would like to take this time to thank W.D. Mohammed for giving us a piece of the vast knowledge that he holds. If you have any further questions, will you be around anytime after this? Okay. Be sure to either find Ron Shahid on campus or any of the students of the Muslim Student Organization, and they would be able to answer more questions for you if you are interested. Thank you very much for coming.